Now I do. Let's talk about your experiment though. I love this that you did. Some might be aware, but you literally did an experiment as part, and as part of the thesis that you're explaining, eating leftovers. Now, from as I remember it, you were allowed to drink water, as I recall, but other than that, you were pretty much on a diet of leftovers from place. Can you tell us about the parameters of that particular experiment that you did, please? Because this is fascinating.
Urban scavenging is what I called it. Now, this project that I did was sort of flowed on from my thesis and some of the work that I was uncovering and the insights that were coming forth as I was analysing the data. And I saw that this really helpful information about why we waste food culturally, what happens when we dine out, and why we waste certain types of food and how much there is. It would be really interesting to know, and maybe if us as diners and consumers, people, if we knew about it, we might do something about it. And I knew that, bless my supervisors and the people who will be assessing my thesis, which I'm submitting in a couple of months, no one else is going to read it. Honestly, I know it's amazing and it will, solve world peace. However, no one's going to read it. So I wanted to find a way to storytell. I wanted to find a way to share that information in a way that would resonate with people, that would engage people, that would consume them with curiosity. So I ran this experiment over 2 weeks now. No, 1 week period, where I survived off food waste for that week. And it wasn't just what I left at home. It was the food waste that you left when you went out for dinner or lunch or breakfast, or whatever it might have been. So at the restaurants, cafes, pubs, bars, I went to so many different sorts of venues. And what I would do is, when I saw that you were finishing your meal or had just finished your meal, or there was a table that people had gone and the plates were still there, I would sit down and I would finish what was left, or a portion of it, because sadly there was often a lot more left than what I could eat. So I did this for a week, and I captured it on Instagram. I did an Instagram live and stories, and eventually I wrote it up and published an article in The Guardian, and went on radio to share some of the insights as well, because it ended up getting quite a bit of attention all around the world. I was surprised but delighted at the same time.
Yeah, I can imagine it, because it's one of those things. It's what I love about it. It's quirky enough that it captures your attention, but it's not with that intent of the ego side of, look what I'm doing, which there's a lot of. No. It's with intent to raise awareness to a very real factor, right? Around, yes. It's a big topic, because we've got some stats on that. The volume of waste, it's astronomical. We're going to come to them shortly. So I love how you did that. What were you surprised by in the process of that? What kind of stood out and surprised you during that little social urban scavenging experiment?
The thing that surprised me the most was how very few people bothered me at all. I was expecting to be shooed out of all of the restaurants and cafes by staff or diners staring at me going, "What are you doing?" And so I was stunned, absolutely stunned, when hardly anyone ever blinked. And psychologically, that's called the spotlight effect. Like, I expected, because I was doing something so unusual socially, that all of the eyes in the place would be on me. And so I was very nervous to start with, extremely nervous, a bit anxious, like, oh God, everyone's going to see me. But then after I'd done it a few times, and I realized that, everyone's on their phone or chatting with their friend. They really don't care that I'm actually even in the building. So I was able to be bolder and braver, and ended up engaging and chatting with people as I was doing it. And the time that it hammered home the most was when I sat down next to a guy who was drinking a coffee in a takeaway cup. And he had two takeaway cups next to him. One that was clearly his, because he was sipping at it at the time. And the other one, I wasn't sure. I thought it was his, but I wasn't sure. So I sat down and I asked him, is that your coffee? Because I was not just eating food this way, but everything, coffee, all my condiments, salt, pepper, everything had to be scavenged. I couldn't take anything from home except water. And I drink coffee. So there I was getting my morning coffee. And I asked this guy, was this yours? I said, he looked up from his phone. No. Great, thanks. And I took a sip, and then he didn't even blink. He went back to his phone. He didn't even notice that I had been there. And I was sweating. I was waiting for him to go, "What on earth are you doing? Someone's just drunk from that." Nope, not one word. And then I realized, we're all so busy and wrapped up in our own worlds that we don't notice what other people are doing. And I think that we can make a big difference by actually paying attention sometimes to what's happening.
Completely. You know, and the thing is, I think we may be more aware of that, but until you do an experiment like that, it's really in your face. And in a world, though, again, I think part of that comes back to so many people looking for extreme ways to get that attention. There's so much out there that's kind of under the radar. I've got an idea, though, for you, Dianne.
Yes.
I was thinking you could do the same experiment. Let's try this one.
Okay.
Urban scavenging with what you think people are going to leave on their plate.
Oh,
so
yes.
you start eating while they're still out there. Now, I think that would get some attention.
It would. And, you know, I could do that because one of the things in the research was that in my thesis, as well as in what I examined that week, was what sort of food people were leaving. And so I was able to look at diners while I was still eating and forecast who would leave what on their plate. It's like, there's a guy and a girl, and at the pub, it's steak night. She's going to leave a good chunk of the meat. He's not going to touch the salad. I should be fine and get almost a complete meal out of these two. So I could have probably done that.
There you go. That's the one. Now, that would be the one that would get attention, where you hone in and you start helping them out with those leftovers before they've actually got there, right? Let's do that.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, mate, you're not going to worry, but I know you don't really want to have the salad. How do you feel if I knock that off for you?
That's brilliant. I love it.